Hello, my cute white lilies. Welcome back to my channel. Your author Satyanshi this side, and I'm finally here to start next chapter of Two Souls Written in Scars. Trishvika asked in shock, "What? 150 crores? What are you saying, Dad?" Abhigyanji lowered his gaze and said, "Yes, Ashwi, this is the truth. We are in debt to Mr. Purushottam, and it's 150 crores, which we can't repay so easily. And the time we were given, that's over too." Now everything was becoming clear to Trishvika. So this was the reason the man came to the company that day. And today, too, he is sitting in her house right in front of her for the same reason. He is here to collect his money. Trishvika asked, "So what are we going to do, Dad? How will we repay this money now?" For the first time, Trishvika looked up at Akshar. She thought maybe now her father would have to give the company to Akshar because there was no other way to repay such a large amount of money, and losing the company meant going back 1,000 steps in her goal. She had to achieve a position quickly and destroy Defiance, bring him to his knees. But now, with such a huge debt hanging over them, it seemed impossible. "I don't want the money back," Akshar said. Hearing this, Trishvika looked at Akshar in shock. If he didn't want the money back, then what did he want? Why was he here? Trishvika asked. "So what do you want? Why are you here? And why don't you want your money back?" After hearing her question, Akshar stood up and slowly walked over to stand in front of Trishvika. With a slight smirk on his lips, he said, "I want something else in exchange for the money." "What do you want?" Trishvika asked, looking directly into Akshar's eyes. "You. I want you," Akshar said. Trishvika's eyes widened in shock. What was this man standing in front of her saying? Was he crazy? She asked again. I don't understand. What do you mean?" This time, Abhigyanji stood up and said, "He wants you in exchange for the money. If you go with him, Ashwi, he won't harm our company." "What nonsense are you talking about, Dad? What do you mean he wants me in exchange for money? Am I some kind of object to be traded?" Trishvika shouted angrily at her father. "Try to understand, beta. This company is everything to your dad and our family. If you don't make this sacrifice, your dad will end up on the streets, Ashwi." This time, Omika ji tried to explain to Trishvika. This was the limit of Trishvika's patience. The dam had burst. She screamed, "What do you mean I should sacrifice myself, Mom? I already sacrificed my dreams by marrying that Divyansh. And for what? Just to make Dad happy? And what did I get in return? Betrayal, a rival, pain, and today you have traded me for money. To save a company, you have sold me, Mom? It's not like that, Ashwi. What kind of words are you using?" Abhigyanji said. "In simple words, Dad, this is called a trade. This is called selling me. Congratulations. Today you have sold your daughter." This time, Trishvika broke down in tears. Today she was completely shattered. After Divyansh's betrayal, whatever was left inside her, dead today. There was nothing left within her now. The parents for whom she had made all the sacrifices since childhood, being the perfect ideal daughter, had sold her for money. What could be worse for a daughter than this? Akshar could only think of a few words from Trishvika's outburst. Betrayal, rival, pain. Clenching his teeth, he said, "Shall we go? I don't think there's anything left for you here." With tear-filled eyes, Trishvika looked at Akshar. Her eyes were blazing with fury. She said, I'm not an object that you trade. Got it? I'm a human being and I don't accept this deal. My parents don't have the right to make this deal either. I would rather die than go with you. Trishvika had clearly refused. Akshar looked angrily at Abhigyanji, who was visibly scared. Seeing no other way to convince Trishvika, he kneeled down in front of her, shocked. Trishvika stepped back and stammered. What are you doing, Dad? Abhigyanji said, You have left me with no other option, Ashwi. Today I beg you on my knees. Please save our company. Only you can do this. Please, beta, save your dad from ruin. Goosebumps spread across Trishvika's body, and her tears wouldn't stop flowing. What had her dad done? The darkest day in her daughter's life is when her father kneels in front of her, begging. Once again, a daughter had lost to her father. Trishvika handed the puja plate she was holding to Abhigyanji and without any emotions said, Here, Dad, once again, you win today. But today, you have completely lost your daughter. Trishvika Jindal, at this very moment, right here in front of you, has dead dad. You can perform the last rites if you want. And without looking back, she walked out of Jindal house. The pain in Trishvika's words was so intense that even a tear fell from Abhigyanji's eyes, landing on the floor. Umika ji called out tearfully, Ashvi, listen beta. But Trishvika was gone forever. Akshar too was deeply hurt by her words, but he knew he was the reason for her pain. Deep down, he also knew that parents who were willing to sell their daughter to save a company might do worse in bad times. Such parents didn't deserve a daughter like Trishvika, so he had no regrets. He left as well, followed by Sanyam and other bodyguards. Outside, Akshar opened the car door and Trishvika got in without saying a word. Akshar told the driver to take another car and sat in the driver's seat himself. His car left Jindal house. For a while, there was silence in the car. Breaking the silence, Trishvika said, Just because I agreed to my dad's request doesn't mean you are right. You put my dad in this position, forcing him to make this decision. So along with my dad, you are guilty too. Yes, you may have taken me with you, but I will never forgive you for this. Yes, I wronged you. I've hurt you. But I got you out of there so I could give you everything you deserve. Even if you hate me for the rest of your life, it won't matter to me. Akshar said silently in his mind. With a smile on his lips, he asked, Do you want to listen to some music? What? Trishvika asked in shock. Yeah. Do you want to listen to some music? Because the journey is long. Akshar said while driving, a lifetime's journey. He thought to himself. Trishvika was astonished. He had just ruined her life completely, and now he was casually asking if she wanted to listen to music. What a strange man. Maybe he was a psycho. What was he planning to do with her? Why did he trade her in the first place? Trishvika was lost in these thoughts when she suddenly heard the lyrics of the song playing. Janam dekh lo mit gayi duriyan. Main Yahaan Hoon Yahaan, Yahaan Hoon Yahaan. Since Trishvika hadn't said anything, Akshar had played the music himself, and the song felt very uncomfortable for Trishvika. She turned her gaze towards the window. The lyrics of the song continued. Janam dekh lo mit gayi duriyan, मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. कैसी सरहदें कैसी मजबूरियाँ, मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. Akshar slowly began humming the lyrics. Actually, today he was very happy, though he couldn't express it. After so many years, Trishvika was with him. He remembered that night when Trishvika was getting married to someone else. That night had been incredibly difficult for Akshar. He hummed along with the lyrics. तुम छुपा ना सकोगी मैं वो राज हूँ, तुम भुला ना सकोगी वो अंदाज हूँ. For some reason, the voice seemed familiar to Trishvika. The moment she saw Akshar, she had felt like she'd seen him somewhere before, but couldn't remember where. And now, even this voice, it also felt familiar. Yet again, she couldn't place it. The song continued. मैं ही मैं अब तुम्हारे ख्यालों में हूँ, मैं जवाबों में हूँ, मैं सवालों में हूँ, मैं तुम्हारे हर एक ख्वाब में हूँ बसा, मैं तुम्हारी नज़र के उजालों में हूँ. देखती हो मुझे देखती हो जहाँ, मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. जानम देख लो मिट गई दूरियाँ, मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. कैसी सरहदें कैसी मजबूरियाँ, मैं यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ हूँ यहाँ. Akshar's voice was very good, but Trishvika didn't want to admit that. The car stopped right as the song ended. When she looked outside, there was a huge mansion in front of her, 4 times bigger than the Jindal house. But seeing this mansion didn't bring any joy to Trishvika. Instead, her eyes welled up again, thinking about what her parents had done. But this was her fate now. She averted her gaze from the mansion. She knew what awaited her inside. After all, what woman wouldn't know what happens behind closed doors when she's traded to a powerful man? And why would this Akshar Purushottam be any different from those others? He too would be hungry for her body. Otherwise, what other reason could there be for him to make a deal for her in exchange for so much money? The thought of all this sent chills down Trishvika's spine. But there was no sign of fear on her face. Her eyes only held tears, and her face reflected emptiness. Just then, she heard a deep voice. Shall we proceed, Your Majesty? Or should I bring you an aarti plate? Trishvika looked up towards the car door, and there stood Akshar, holding the door open with a smirk on his lips and sunglasses over his eyes. Trishvika's eyes only showed anger and helplessness. She stepped out of the car, and Akshar shut the door behind her before leading her inside the mansion. As soon as Trishvika entered, her eyes widened in amazement. Every corner of the mansion represented royalty, and everything seemed to be worth millions. Trishvika muttered to herself, if he had so much money, he could have just kidnapped any girl. Why ruin my life? First of all, I don't need girls. I only need one woman. And that woman is you. Secondly, I did kidnap a woman on a gunpoint, you know. Akshar said as he removed his sunglasses and sat comfortably on the sofa like a king. Trishvika looked at Akshar in shock. She had spoken so softly. How did this Akshar Purushottam hear her? Were his ears so sharp that he could even hear a whisper? Trishvika didn't know that Akshar belonged to the Indian Mafia and had a keen eye on everything happening around him. Hearing her wasn't a big deal for him. Trishvika said, you could have taken someone who would willingly fulfill your needs. At least, my life wouldn't have been ruined. Hearing her last words, Akshar's smirk deepened. Trishvika had no idea what was going on in Akshar's mind and heart at that moment. He got up and, looking into her eyes, saying, your ruin hasn't even begun, Your Majesty. I'll destroy you so beautifully that even you won't recognize yourself. With Akshar being so close, Trishvika felt strange. She was scared and anxious. This man could do anything to her. And by now, Trishvika had realized his power. She had accepted that her life was completely ruined and there was no way to escape from here. Seeing the fear in Trishvika's eyes, Akshar stepped back and called out, Kainath. Soon a girl around 20 or 22 years old, dressed in house staff attire, came in and said, Yes, sir. Is the room ready now? Akshar asked, but he didn't take his eyes off Trishvika. Yes, sir. Everything has been arranged as you instructed. Kainath replied with her head bowed. Good job. Show madam to her room and make sure she doesn't lack anything. Akshar said, Okay, sir. Ma'am, this way, please. Kainath gestured towards the stairs. Trishvika stared into Akshar's eyes as she walked up the stairs with Kainath. As soon as she left, a sweet smile appeared on Akshar's face. He hummed a few lines from a song. मेरी मन्नत तू तुझको है तुझसे मांगा मेरी मन्नत तू. Then he took out his phone from his pocket and dialed a number. After a ring or two, the call was picked up and a voice from the other side said, Chiku, Anvi, how's my little doll? Is Anvi missing Chachu or not? Akshar asked lovingly. On the other end, little Anvi tried to say something in her own language. Chiku, Ao. Akshar smiled at her response and said, I'll come, little doll. Now tell me, where's your dad? Give him the phone quickly, okay? A 2-year-old Anvi walked with her teeny feet to the hall where Anant was sitting and handed him the phone. Anant, who was watching the news, picked her up and asked, What happened, Anu? Is the poem over? Anvi said, Chiku. Anant understood that it must be Akshar's call since Anvi was calling out his name. He looked at the screen and confirmed his guess. Akshar was still on the line. Anant immediately said, Hello, yes Chiku. Teach your daughter to call me Chachu. All she ever says is Chiku Chiku, Akshar complained. Anant laughed and replied, She learns what she hears, right? All she hears is Chiku, so she learned it. Anyway, what's up? Why did you call? Bhai, I feel like having a party, so I called to invite you. You and Bhabhi should come. Don't tell mom and dad, please. You know they won't like these parties. And leave Anvi with mom. Akshar said. Anant replied, Yeah, I got it. Where should we meet? Club Heaven, 7 in the evening. Akshar said, Okay, Anant confirmed. See you soon, bye. Akshar said and he hung up. Then he left the mansion. Meanwhile, Trishvika stood outside a room. The girl who came with her, Kainath, said, Ma'am, this will be your room from today. You'll stay here. Please take a good look at the room. If you need anything, just let me know. Thank you. Trishvika said as if coming out of a shock. Kainath left and Trishvika entered the room. The entire room was themed in maroon and white. There was a large comfortable bed, a couch and center table a little further away, a bookshelf filled with various kinds of books on one side, with white curtains and a lovely balcony with glass partition, adorned with beautiful plants and flowers. Everything in the room was neatly arranged, and the size of the room left Trishvika amazed. She hadn't expected Akshar to give her such a room to stay in. Trishvika took a deep breath. It was already afternoon and she hadn't eaten anything since she was supposed to go to the temple today. Her stomach was growling and her baby was hungry too. Trishvika could bear her own hunger, but for her baby, she had to eat something. So she went back downstairs. The mansion was enormous and luxurious, and it would take her some time to memorize the way. Somehow, she made her way to the dining area. Seeing her there, Kainath said, Ma'am, lunch is almost ready. Please wait for 2 minutes. I'll set the table right away. Trishvika said nothing and sat at the table. Since coming downstairs, she hadn't seen anyone in the hall or the dining area. Maybe Akshar was in his room. To clear her doubt, she asked Kainath, Excuse me? Mr. Purushottam, Sir left after dropping you here. Kainath informed her. Trishvika was shocked and asked, "Where did he go? To the company? Ray Corporation?" Kainath replied. Trishvika felt a little relieved now. Everything was so awkward in Akshar's presence. And now that he wasn't here, she could at least have her lunch in peace. Otherwise, she wouldn't have been able to eat. She said, "Oh." By now, lunch was served. Kainath said, "Ma'am, if you feel like eating anything else, please let me know." Trishvika hadn't expected to be treated this way here. As she began her lunch, she said, "No, thank you." She finished her lunch quietly, without much conversation, and went back to her room. The mansion seemed completely silent, as if no one else lived there besides Akshar, and he wasn't there. Now Trishvika had time to think. Everything that had happened today began to replay in her mind. Meeting Shivali, reopening old wounds, her parents selling her off for money. If Abhigyanji hadn't begged in front of her, she might never have accepted this situation. But what now? She couldn't go back to work at Jindal Group. What about her revenge against Defiance? She hadn't told anyone about her pregnancy yet. What would Akshar do when he found out she was already pregnant? How would she raise her child? Her mind was racing with all these thoughts, and her heart was filled with immense unease. Suddenly, Akshar Purushottam had entered her life, turning it completely upside down. All her plans were left in ruins. She thought to herself, "No, I can't stay trapped within these four walls. I came here to repay Dad's debt. They handed me over to this man. It's his responsibility to keep me captive. If I somehow escape from here, I will be free, and so will Dad. Yes, I must escape from here. Only then I can succeed in my goals." Hey lilies, your turn to shine. What stole your heart in this chapter and what didn't? What deserves a little extra love? Share your thoughts in below. I can't wait to hear your opinion. Don't forget to like, comment and share this update with your favorite bookworms. Your support fuels our journey with this novel. Stay tuned for more twists and turns in Two Souls Written in Scars. Until then, may your dreams be filled with your favorite fictional characters. All yours, Satyanshi.